You know, there are times when religion can become kind of a game. And I can't speak for you. I can just share with you that as I get older, and I'm getting older, I find myself getting less religious, but at the same time, trying to be more spiritual. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, because so often religion can divide us. But spirituality, that sense that Jesus and God live inside your heart and soul, that can kind of bring us together. You know, for example, in the gospel this morning, they played all kinds of games with Jesus. I mean, the Pharisees come up, and then the Pharisees should have enjoyed Jesus, because Jesus wanted to open his heart and their heart to the gentle message of the Jewish religion. And he wanted more people to come in and be a part of the temple. But the Pharisees, they were threatened by all that. And so they come to Jesus and they say, "Do you think we should pay taxes to the emperor?" Thinking that Jesus would say no. And then Jesus said, "Well, give me that coin." And he looks at the coin and it's got the emperor's picture on it. He said, "Well, give to the emperor what's the emperor's, but give to the Lord what's the Lord's." And this morning I took my daily walk out back, and I saw the flags waving, and I looked at our building as darkness was turning into light, and I saw the parking lot and all the stuff in the gym for the Fall Fest. And I came inside and I saw the Love Bucket and the sign-ups for St. Coletta's and for bingo and for the All Saints dinner. I saw these crazy buckets on the altar rail. I looked at the names on the back and thought about how hard people work to kind of keep me employed and keep the church going. I thought about a hair salon this past Monday where one of our people works, and they 3 or 4 times a year they just open their doors to all the clients of St. Coletta's, and the clients come in and they get haircuts and pizza and dessert at no charge, and the people that do it don't get any money. They just get a lot of satisfaction for giving. A lot of you know who Kieran Conway is. You know, Kieran entertained us for 7 years at the All Saints dinner. People were lined up out the door to get in. And Kieran has got stage 4 cancer. There's a big fundraiser for him tonight. And yesterday afternoon, I got a surprising phone call from Kieran. And he said, "I'm coming into town for our fundraiser. Is it okay if I come to the 11 o'clock service?" And I thought of all those times when Kieran came here and he would end the All Saints dinner with his rendition of America the Beautiful or Amazing Grace. And now, instead of entertaining us, he's fighting for his very life. Been battling cancer for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I think to myself, you know, why are we here? Why are we here after 56 years? You know, I did a wedding last Sunday. I work 1 day a week, and of course I took that day off last week. And I did a service on the beach. And Peggy and I were there, and this young lady who I did the service for, you know, she grew up here. And I remember 10 years ago doing her younger brother's funeral because of an addiction overdose. And afterwards, a couple comes up to me and says, "Remember us?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you married us 30 years ago." And I said, "Obviously it worked." So why are we here? It's not just about today. It's not about the sign, the name on the sign. It's really about our spirit and what you're going to do with your life this afternoon and tomorrow and Tuesday. It's not about whose picture's on the coin. It's about the picture in your heart and what you do with that picture. Had kind of a signature All Saints funeral on Thursday. It was one of those funerals that, for a family that doesn't come to church. A couple of you know them, and there's a little bit of a connection, and thanks to you and your generosity and openness, the service was here. And I am completely amazed how people that never go to church come here for a funeral and they pack the joint. And I said, "Why don't you do this on Sunday and make our job a lot easier?" Do you realize what a gift you are? That when somebody calls the church for a funeral or a wedding or a baptism or a christening, which means they're Catholic, because that's what they call baptism, that I don't have to say, "You have to be a member." I don't have to say, "You got to come to class first." I don't have to say you have to join the church. Because you, because of your Spirit, give me as your minister the freedom to keep the door open and the coffee pot perking and letting people in the door to see what the Spirit of Jesus is all about. And on that Thursday, the spirit inside this room for this funeral was incredibly spiritual. 3 people spoke for a total combination of 8 minutes. 3 speakers in 8 minutes. And those were some of the most powerful 8 minutes I ever heard, because every single word was thought out and talked about the spirit of love and goodness this lady brought into the world. Now, after the service, as people were leaving, one of the gentlemen who came here went up to one of the members, not me, and he said, "It was good being here, but you know something? Your pastor doesn't mention the word Jesus very much at a funeral." And you know something? I sometimes wonder about myself. I'm sure you do in your job too. I mean, should I be a little more religious? I reflect a lot after all these years on what I do every day. But I've come to believe more and more that Jesus is not just a word. It's more than a name. That Jesus is a lifestyle. It's a way we choose to carry ourselves if and when we believe. And you know, Jesus may have died over 2,000 years ago, and yet when he left this earth, he left something more powerful behind. He left his Spirit, his legacy, his goodness, and his grace. And so after the service, I was greeting people, so I had a chance to bump into the gentleman who doesn't think I say Jesus enough. And I went up to him and I just simply said, like everybody, "Thanks for being here. It was an honor to have all of you here. I'm sorry about the loss of your niece." And I said, "You know, I know your niece was not much of a churchgoer and wasn't really religious. But I said to him, her spirit, her love of life and family was contagious. And I said, couldn't you just feel the Spirit of Jesus in this room?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, it's really nice to have you here." And last weekend, I wasn't here, and I was in Fort Myers, and ironically, the place where the wedding was is a place where Quentin and I had been twice in our life. Once when he was about 7, and once shortly before Jude passed away. And both times we went on this older boat, and the captain took us out on the ocean. And this has nothing to do with anything. I just have to tell a story to fill up some time. And we would be in search of dolphins. And the captain's name was JR. And it's funny, because I never know what goes on inside Q's head. But every once in a while, like on an ordinary Wednesday after school, he'll go, "Don, I wonder how JR is." And I said, "Q, we've met him twice in our lifetime. How do I know how he is?" Well, we get to Fort Myers, and Q looks at me and Peggy and says, "I wonder if we'll see JR." And I said, "We haven't seen JR in 5 years. Well, we sign up for the old boat, the Dolphin Cruise, and we're in line by the boat. The boat pulls into the marina, and off the boat steps JR. And he looks at Q, and he says, "Q, how have you been?" And Q absolutely lights up. I want to cry, and then Q looks at us and says, "Well, I'm going to have a lot more fun than you are." At the end of the cruise, JR says to me, "I know you're doing a wedding tomorrow night on the beach. Would it be okay if Q is my guest on my evening sunset cruise tomorrow night?" And I said, "Absolutely." And once again, Q said, "I'm going to have a lot more fun than you are." And I wrote to JR afterwards. And I just said, "I can't thank you enough for your goodness and your grace. And I don't know what religion you are, JR, but somehow, some way, I saw something very spiritual in you." And he said, "I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do." I don't always know what it is every day that we're supposed to do. I mean, we're supposed to be the very best we can be. We're supposed to leave this place on a Sunday morning or a Thursday night and be the best we can be when we go out into the world and meet people. We're supposed to do a lot of things. And when love and kindness abounds, that's precisely today where Jesus lives. Amen. If you're able to, please rise for the creed. It's on page 105.